Hey team, it's Mrs. Borgerson coming to you from my kitchen. I've got your craft for this week, and it goes along with the Eric Carle book that Mrs. Wilbanks read. If you haven't watched it yet, you might want to watch it. It's called The Tiny Seed, and it's a really fun book. Eric Carle is a really good illustrator, and he uses a lot of color in his pictures in his books. So that's one of the reasons that we love him so much. And this project that we're going to make today is actually kind of a special project that we would normally make for our Easter Chapel art show. So that's how special this project is to Mrs. Wilbanks and I. So I'm going to show you today how to make your own tiny seed flower, okay? I'll show you what you need first, and you may have to, after you've painted the pictures, before we can do any of the cutting, you'll have to let it dry. So this is kind of a two-part craft. So you could start your painting, which doesn't take very long, and get that done, and then after it dries, you can finish your project, okay? So the first thing you're going to need is 3 pieces of paper. And I used white. Whatever you have in the house, white looks the best, obviously, but whatever size you have, you can make as big of a flower, as you can out of it. But this is going to be my background page, so it's a little bit bigger. And then you need 2 smaller sheets, and I just used computer paper, so it doesn't have to be anything fancy, okay? Whatever you've got, construction paper, whatever mom and dad have in the house. So 2 of those. And then I've got a paper plate here that I put my paint on, and we're going to be using, I've got 6 colors here, 2 different colors of green. If you only have one, that's fine too, but I've got 2 different colors. That's going to be for the leaves and the stem of the flower. And then I have a blue and a pink. Or I'm also going to show you a background that has some purple on it, because you know I love purple. And then this is going to be the color of your flower. So this is going to be your petals, and I'm using orange and yellow, okay? So you're going to need a little bit of those. Put a little bit on your plate of each of those colors. And I'm going to get my paints ready a little bit here too, in case I run out, in case I need some more. And then of course you're going to need a paintbrush. And I've got a cup of water here and some paper towel to wipe it off on. And then if you don't, these are just tempera paints that I have at home, but if you don't have tempera paints and you have, these are some other paints you can use, those are called acrylic paints. Or if you have watercolor paints, that'll just make your flowers look a little bit lighter and a little bit more whimsical, but that would be really pretty too. Whatever you've got at home, use it. So here's our paints. You'll also need a pair of scissors. You'll also need either a glue stick or some liquid glue. And then the last part of our flower is the middle part of our flower, which we usually put seeds in there. And if you've got sunflower seeds, if you've got bird seed, anything like that, I am going to use, they're called lentils, and I have those in my pantry. So I just put a few in a little cup, and we're going to sprinkle those inside our flower when we're all done. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is take your bigger piece of paper, or just one of your pieces of paper. It doesn't, but it's going to be the biggest one you're using, because this is going to be our background, okay? So I'm going to start, and I'm going to take some pink paint, and I'm just going to kind of go back and forth on the paper, and I'll show you this when I'm done here. Just go back and forth, cover up the whole page, okay? And then I'm going to take some blue, and go back and forth with that. If you have lighter colors of paint, it works better. It makes them look not quite as dark, and it makes them look a little bit more springy, I think. So if you have lighter colors. Okay, so I kind of did this, guys. You would want to cover up the whole paper, all that white, cover up all of that. And this is what it might look like afterwards. This was one that Charlie, my little girl, made. And then here's one that I made, and I used pink and purple. So this is going to be my background. I'm going to take this one. So that will be my background. I'm going to put that up here. So we're going to let that dry. Okay. And then the next piece of paper we're going to make is going to be what our petals are made out of. And it's going to look like this when we're done. So you just take one of your sheets of paper. And again, just kind of make it real light and airy. I'm going to dip it in the orange. Go back and forth with my brush. You don't have to be fancy with it. Just cover it up. And then we're going to take some yellow. Back and forth with the yellow. Okay. And when we're all done, that's what this looks like. But when we're all done and it dries, we want it to look kind of like this. Okay. So that's going to be what we cut our petals out of. All right, and then last but not least is the leaves and the stem, which are going to be green. Okay, so I'm going to take my lighter green, and I'm going to put that all over the page. Hope you guys are painting while you're off. This is so fun. You can paint on the sidewalk. You know what one of my favorite things to do when I was a little kid was? My mom used to fill up a bucket full of water and give me a paintbrush and just let me paint the sidewalk, the house, whatever I wanted to. Because it was just water. Couldn't hurt anything, right? Okay, then I'm going to take my darker green. And if you can give it some brush strokes, it looks really cool when we cut them out. Okay, so it kind of looks like this. And when it dries, it looks more like that. Okay, so that's going to be our leaves. So now we have our background, and we have the two that we're going to make our leaves and our petals with. So make sure that these are dry. So give it a little while to dry. And then what you're going to do is, maybe mom can help you by cutting out a petal that looks kind of like this, a flower petal or whatever shape that you want to use for a flower petal. But this is going to be my flower petal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over on the white side, okay? And then when I turn it over, I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to trace my petals. So I'm going to trace a few petals until they look like this on the back of my white paper. I've already cut a few out here, but so it looks kind of like that on the back of the white. And then what you do is you take your scissors and you need approximately approximately 8. But you can do as many as you want. But we usually do about 8, and that'll give you a full flower when you're all done. Okay, so I'm cutting out my petal, and look at what it looks like when I'm done. So that's going to be one of my flower petals. And see how they're all different because of how I painted? So this is what they're going to look like when they're all cut out. Okay, so there's your petals. Now I'm going to do my leaves. And we usually do about 3 or 4 leaves, but how many ever you want, and you do the same thing. I made a little stencil with a leaf. Maybe mom can help you with that, or dad. And go ahead and trace the leaf on the back of your green paper. Trace it with a pencil. You all know how to trace. And then this is really good cutting practice. And then go ahead, here's my leaves, and I've traced it on the back. So I'm going to cut it out. Okay. And voila, I have a leaf. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, how many ever you want of those. Put those off to the side. And then the last thing we need to cut out is, out of your green paper, you're going to cut a long stem. Okay? So just cut, if you need Mom to maybe trace that on there so you can cut it, otherwise just cut a long stem like that. Okay? And now you have all your pieces. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to put it all together. So here's my background, right? So I'm going to take my background, and the first thing I'm going to glue down is my stem. So I'll glue my stem down. Like I said, you can either use liquid glue or a glue stick. Liquid glue probably works better because it'll hold it a little bit better on there. But whatever you've got is good. Okay. So go ahead and glue this down. Okay. And now this is a little bit long, so I'm going to cut that off just a little bit. Okay, so I have my stem on. Sorry, still there? Have my stem glued down. A little technical difficulty there. Okay, and then I'm going to lay out my flower petals on here. And then I'm going to glue them down after I decide that that's where I want them. So I'll kind of tilt it so you can see it. So this is kind of how I'm going to want my petals to be on my flower. See how I have them laid down? So now I'm going to go ahead and glue them down. I'm going to use the stick just because it goes a little bit quicker. Okay, glue that one. I know Miss Liz sent you guys a art project that had a flower to make too, so we're all about flowers right now because it's springtime in Georgia, right? Okay, so I'm almost done here and I've got my petals. And then what am I missing? What's last? What's the next thing? What needs to go on our stem? Remember? Remember what you cut out? Anybody say leaves? Yep. Okay, we're going to do our leaves. So here's my leaves, and I'm going to take 3 of them because I like odd numbers. And I'm going to glue 1 on my stem, and then I'm going to glue another one on my stem, and 1 more. Okay? I was going to do this project for you guys outside because it's such a pretty day, but my neighbor likes to use his leaf blower at this time of day, so it's a little noisy out there. Okay, and voila, look at guys. Here is my flower, but it's missing the seeds from the book, The Tiny Seed. So let's get our seeds on there. Okay. Kind of want to put enough glue, a good amount of glue in the middle of your flower. So I'm going to use my liquid glue. Okay, and I got a good amount. Then I'm going to take my seeds and I'm going to sprinkle them there. Kind of press them down just a little bit gently. And then I'll kind of let them fall off. Oh, it's so pretty. And here you go. Here is your tiny seed flower. And then of course, because you are the author and you are the creator, we would want you to put by and your name. Okay? So there you go, everybody. There is your Tiny Seed Artist Project. I hope you liked it. I hope you have fun making it. And just an idea for you, they make awesome Mother's Day gifts for mom or grandma, okay? All right, everybody. I will see you on Wednesday for our Zoom call, and I'm looking forward to it, okay? Have a good week.